Spotlight. I'm your host, Michelle Prince, founder and CEO of Performance Publishing Group, making a difference one story at a time. We'll be shining the light on successful founders, entrepreneurs, business owners, and leaders that are getting results and making a difference. We'll talk about how they built their businesses, are creating movements, and leveraging the power of authority in their own lives. Be sure to stick around to the end of the show and we'll reveal how you can be our next guest. Let's get started. Hey everybody, and welcome to the Power of Authority Spotlight, where we shine the light on successful entrepreneurs, business owners, leaders, and founders that are doing great things. They're building businesses and they're making a difference in this world. I cannot wait for you to meet our guest today. It's somebody I have known for a little while now, and she has such a powerful story. But first, this episode is brought to you by Performance Publishing. If you have ever thought about writing a book, you really should. Everyone has a story. Every story matters, but you got to get it out of your head onto paper, and that's where Performance Publishing can help. Go to performancepublishinggroup.com. That's performancepublishinggroup.com. Schedule your free strategy call so that we can help you realize your dream of becoming an author. All right, let me introduce you to my friend and guest today, Kathy Sullivan. She is the principal and owner of Talent Principles, LLC. She's an organizational development consultant and executive coach, helping clients improve organizational performance by providing developmental solutions at the individual, team, and organizational levels. She provides strategic guidance, driving positive change through people and processes to improve performance. Kathy works with leaders at all levels and utilizes an effective coaching framework to facilitate the creation of actionable goals that build leadership capabilities, leverage motivations for change, and improve results. Her personable approach allows her to establish trust quickly with clients. I can totally see that. She takes time to understand her clients' culture and strategic objectives and aligns developmental goals with desired outcomes. Welcome to the show, Kathy.
Thank you for having me, Michelle. I'm excited to be here.
Oh my goodness. I'm so excited that you're here because you just released a new book that I want to talk about. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your book? It's called Moms Eat First, and give us a little bit of an overview.
I would say a couple of things inspired me to write the book. First and foremost was my own personal experience, both personally and professionally, I should say. The pandemic, I would say, shifted that into overdrive. The second experience that really inspired me was the work that I do. As you indicated, I spend a lot of time working with organizations. Sometimes that work is to help them retain and develop talent. And sometimes that is more specifically focused on helping retain women. And in that work, I've had the chance to really conduct focus groups and have some one-on-one conversations with women who are primary caregivers and have really gained some valuable insights from them. And then third, I would say what inspired me was a lot of the research out there. There's plenty of information that supports the fact that women have unique challenges, particularly women who are primary caregivers, both at home and work. So those were really the overarching themes that, drove me to want to write this book.
Yeah. And it's just, I love the title. The cover is beautiful.
Thank you.
The message in it is really, really powerful. And I know you talk about there's 5 principles for creating change. Do you mind walking us through what those principles are?
Yes. So there's 5 principles, but they're really founded in what I refer to as the 5 R's. So reflecting on what is important, rediscovering what you want, resetting priorities, reclaiming what you want, particularly amid adversity, and releasing what you can't control.
I love it. 5 R's. Go through them one more time so people can write it down.
Yes. So it's reflecting on what's important, rediscovering what you want for yourself, resetting priorities based on what you want, reclaiming what you want, particularly amid adversity, right? Because when we experience change, we often lower our expectations. And then the last one is releasing what you can't control.
I've always loved things that start with the same letter. I do the same thing with P's. Oh, so that is so good. So thinking about this book, when you were writing this, and even now today, what impact do you want to have by having this book, by writing the book, getting it out there into the world?
I would say it's a couple of things. I want to have impact first on women, right, who are primary caregivers, particularly moms. And I think it's important to recognize that these principles would apply to anyone. But given the experiences I've shared, The first thing is really to help women create more agency in their lives.
Mm.
Um, I don't focus a lot on the systems and the structures per se. I talk a little bit about some of the kind of outside challenges that many women experience. So the book is primarily focused on giving them agency, but I also want to have impact on a broader basis. So the way that I'm doing that is through donating a portion of proceeds to an organization called Moms First, which is not affiliated with the book or the title. And that organization is really focused on creating more structural systemic change, moms in particular, and they're focused on three primary things, which is affordable childcare, paid family leave, and equity in pay for moms. So,
Gosh, as a mom, and my kids are grown now, but I remember during those years and affordable childcare, it's kind of an oxymoron, like
right.
it's really, really tough for moms, and especially moms that, maybe they're or on their own. And so what a wonderful organization.
Yeah. Well, and during the pandemic, I think a lot of women, right? You saw that it wasn't just the great resignation, it was the great resignation of women. And many women left the workforce because, they were often the primary caregivers. And, certainly it reflected a variety of reasons as to why they left. But I think that was a big one was childcare.
Yeah, the whole juggling while being at home. And I had many friends that had kids at home during that period. And I was thinking back to when my kids were, that age, and I had them in, a little school or a daycare. But there was a couple of times that they would get sick, of course, and I'd be at home trying to juggle, a conference call and
Yes.
and a little one crying. And I can literally remember one time running into my closet as fast as I could just to take a call before they discovered that I wasn't in the room. Um, I felt during that time, but even now, I mean, I feel like it's tough. It's really hard to juggle all that.
Yeah, it's interesting that you shared that particular experience because I don't think I talk about this in the book. There's another story that I share, but I've done a couple of keynote presentations and I actually share a story during the pandemic when I had to go into my closet. I had learned a lot about myself and my kids certainly during that time. And it was very difficult, trying to balance that work and support clients and try to manage the kids while they're doing their schoolwork.
Somebody's getting the short end of that stick, you know,
Yeah.
'cause you just
Yeah.
see everywhere. How old were your kids during the pandemic?
My son, I think it was first grade, feels like it was just yesterday, but yet so long ago. So, what I talk about in the book too, again, coming back to a lot of things that I learned about my kids, my son in particular, who had been already diagnosed with ADHD at that time. So the pandemic really opened my eyes to the challenges he was experiencing because he couldn't sit at the table in the other room on camera, right at the computer with this teacher for very long because of his differences. So that was very eye-opening for me.
And yeah, I can relate to that as well. You know, it's just I love the book. I love the emphasis though on helping all of us to just have a different perspective of, how do you manage through this? The 5 R's. I want to go through those again because I
Sure.
think they're really important. So in first reflect. Anytime you can just sit back and reflect, but what's important? What is it that you really want? What is important? I love how you put that. Rediscover, right? Rediscovering yourself, rediscovering your passions. Is that, anything else on that?
You know, yeah. So it's really about opening your mind to possibilities. I find a lot of times when we want change, we sometimes focus on the constraints. We look at what will prevent us from achieving what we want. So it's really important to, not look at the constraints, but more around what are the possibilities and the endless possibilities, if you will, because those are often, they come from a place of motivation and things that we want for ourselves.
I love that. And then resetting priorities, very,
Mhm.
very important. Not always easy,
Correct.
but necessary.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then reclaiming, right? And even despite adversity, despite whatever's going on in the world or in your world, reclaiming.
So the reclaiming is, I think, really critical. And as I mentioned earlier, what I find often happens when we are working toward our goals is that we experience obstacles or challenges and we give up or we lower our expectations of ourselves. And it's in those moments, I believe, that we have our biggest opportunity to really work through and persevere in order to achieve what we want.
Mhm. So good. And then finally, and maybe most importantly, is releasing whatever's holding you back.
Yes, and I look at this in a couple of different ways. Certainly as it relates to what's holding you back, but I also think particularly on, as we think about moms, and this is not necessarily related to all moms, but I think many times we're trying to control too much around us.
Yeah.
So we also need to recognize what are the things that we are trying to control that really aren't ours to control and let that go too.
So good. Hey, I was just recently reading something too that, with as a mom, right? Most of what we're talking about is during those years where our kids at home, but really that job never ends. And, we're always a mom, we're always thinking of our kids and worrying about our kids. Mine are adults, and yet I'm still, thinking of ways that I can help them and make their lives easier. And so it's just it's an honor to be a mom, but anyone
Mhm.
who's a mom knows, I mean, it's never ending, and we have our good days, our challenging days, but always so worth it.
Yes. And that assignment, as I refer to, it changes over time based on the season of life you're in, based on the age of your kids, as you indicated. And, if you're married or have a partner, and, there's a lot of dynamics that kind of impact your experience and what your priorities are. And I encourage women to really think about how they define their role as a mom, because I also think there's a lot of societal expectations that women feel they have to live up to based on what other people think a good mom is and does.
So true. My dad used to joke about, that he would say that there's a special place in heaven for moms because because of all that we do and all that we are, and but it's such a gift.
Yes.
We have just a couple extra minutes. And so, if you don't mind, let's talk a little bit about the work you do because it is so important and it does extend beyond, just being a mom. But and you and I share this passion. My
Mhm.
background, even my degree is in organizational behavior, and I love everything about this because you can truly see a change you're making in organizations. But talk a little bit more about what you do for companies in helping their leaders.
So, on a broader scale, my focus is really on developing leadership capabilities. And the way I do that is in a variety of forms, as I'm sure you do. So, I work a lot with teams. At times, I'll work with the executive team and sometimes even the HR department to help implement larger, kind of broader scale changes, if you will, looking at systems, processes, et cetera. And sometimes that's also through delivering programs. But then you've got the individual focus from a coaching perspective, working with individuals. And sometimes it's a combination of those things. And as I mentioned earlier, a few of the clients I've worked with over the last few years have been very focused on retaining women. And some of the boards that I work on and support are also very focused on helping women advance in the workplace in particular. So some of those engagements, as I mentioned, I've been able to really just gain some valuable insights from women who are moms. And, it's really just providing them with some tools and some strategies to kind of help navigate. I don't like to say creating balance per se. I think that is defined very differently for people. So to me, it's about looking at integrating, work and life, if you will, and just helping them again create agency in their lives.
So important, and the work you do is incredibly important, and I know making an impact in a lot of women's lives, and this book I know will truly make an impact. So how can people get a copy of your book, and then also where can they learn more about what you do?
Yes, thank you. So they can get the book online either at Amazon or Barnes and Noble, and they can learn more about the work I do at talentprinciples.com.
Awesome. Well, definitely, if get a copy of the book "Moms Eat First" by Kathy Sullivan. Great read. Super excited about the launch of this, and I'm going to wrap it up with one last question. And what is some of the best advice you've ever received as a mom that you want to share with the audience?
That's a good question. What's the best advice I ever received as a mom? I don't know if I've ever received direct advice, but what I will say, Michelle, is that I learned a lot from my own mom, who I talk about in the book. And I think really the advice that I would share with others is to really know what's important to you and know what you stand for. I think that's probably the best advice that I could share. That's what I learned from my mom is really understanding like what grounds you and what's important to you.
Yeah. Oh, that is such great advice. Yeah. Know what you stand for. What a great way to
Mhm.
put that.
Yeah.
Well, what a great way to wrap up this episode. And Kathy, just thank you so, so much for being on the show and being an inspiration to so many of us women and making a difference in the world.
Thank you for having me, Michelle.
You bet. All right, everyone. Once again, check out Kathy at talentprinciples.com. And remember the 5 R's that we talked about. First reflect, rediscover, reset, reclaim, and then release what's holding you back. And these are some of the ways that you can put yourself first and other women. That's it for the show this time. We'll see you next time on the Power of Authority Spotlight. Thanks, everybody. Thanks so much for listening to the Power of Authority Spotlight. If you are a successful founder, entrepreneur, business owner, or leader that's getting results and making a difference, and you'd like to be on this program, please visit performancepublishinggroup.com/podcast to apply. That's performancepublishinggroup.com/podcast. Also, if you got something out of this interview, please share this episode. Just do a quick screenshot with your phone and text it to a friend or post it on the socials. If you know someone that would be a great guest, tag them on social media to let them know about the show and include the hashtag #ThePowerOfAuthoritySpotlight. I love seeing your posts and guest suggestions. We are regularly putting out new episodes and content, so make sure you don't miss any episodes by subscribing. Your thumbs up, ratings, and reviews go a long way to help promote the show and mean a lot to me and my team. Want to know more? Go to our websites, performancepublishinggroup.com or michelleprince.com, and follow me on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.